Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan AGAJAINIan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum in the historic Max Factor building, and our guests are performer Cam Clarke and artist Michael Dee. Native Californian Cam Clarke was raised in North Hollywood, and as a child actor never attended public schools. His career has taken a variety of twists and turns, which he's brought to the stage at the Odyssey Theater in this new play called Stop Me If I Told You This. Well, how did things start for you as far as show business went?
Well, it's funny, even before I was born, as we sat down here, I noticed we've got Ida Lupino's picture back there. And my dad was an actor here in Hollywood back in the 40s and 50s. And he was one of her proteges. In fact, there was a film called Hard, Fast, and Beautiful. How's that for a 50s title,
I
right?
like it, right.
Tennis movie, Tennis Pros.
Oh, it was tennis. It sounded like something else to me. Cars.
And that was Dad, directed by Ida.
It was directed?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she kind of took him under her wing and put him in a number of her films. But I actually, this building here, we taped, well, the King family, which is where I got my start.
I was going to ask you, yes, okay. You started at the King family.
Yeah, which is in my show, Stop Me If I Told You This, with all these old clips of our TV shows and stuff.
Right.
Well, around the corner from where we're sitting right now, where the Hollywood Palace Theater is, on Vine, across from Capitol Records, well, there's a parking lot right next door to that now, which is where we used to go to studio school. You mentioned me not being in public school.
I was going to ask you, who went to studio school then?
Well, there were so many kids in my family. Our show had 40 performers in it.
I mean, in the King family.
In the King family.
Okay, let's talk
so
about
we had
that.
our own schoolhouse.
What is the King family? What was that show, and what was it? Because it's not on anymore.
Oh no, dear. Long time gone.
And there's your voiceover. I can hear it coming.
Well, my mom and her sisters were a famous singing group called the King Sisters.
Oh, your mother was a King sister?
Yes.
Oh, wow. You had no choice.
I had no choice. It was meant to be. It was...
Look at you.
Foreordained. And they were doing this benefit performance one time, and my Aunt Yvonne said, why don't we do this wacky idea? Let's put our kids in the show.
Oh.
So this benefit performance thing, she had it filmed, and she showed it to somebody at ABC, and they went, how soon can we get a pilot of this? And boom, we were on the air with our own show.
Is that right? And where were they performing, the King Sisters? Did
Oh,
they have their own show, or were they performing around town?
They were during the big band era and radio era, and so they were on everybody's show.
Were you neglected as a child?
Only in the most wonderful way. No, it was funny because we were all on stage together. It was, I mean, my moms, and I call them my moms, because they could be kind of interchangeable.
Were they still sisters? Were they really sisters?
There were 6 sisters.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes, we kids have said, like, they weren't stage mothers. Sometimes they weren't even mothers,
Did they all have kids?
Oh, yeah. Mom was one of 8 children and 6 daughters and 2 brothers, and the 6 girls performed at different combinations of 4.
And their father, were they in show business before?
Yes. They started in vaudeville with a family band and toured over around the western United States.
And so that was their parent. That was your
my grandparents.
Your grandparents, I see.
And
is this all in your show?
Yeah, and
it's so great.
We have clips of baby Cam, little Cam singing, from, like I said, the Hollywood Palace Theater over here. Clips of my parents, my mom, and then my animation characters I've worked into the show.
And your animation characters are like Ninja Turtles.
Leonardo of the Ninja Turtles.
Right.
And
Simba.
Simba.
And Clifford.
He-Man, Masters of the Universe. And number...
Who's the turtle?
Leonardo. Leonardo, the blue mask. And so I've worked up in the show that they are like my subconscious, and they do battle. You know, Leonardo tries to rein in all the other characters, and Simba tries to get everybody in line.
And the big red dog?
Yes, on Clifford the Big Red Dog, I played Mac, who was a snooty greyhound and didn't want to get his paws dirty.
Isn't that funny? Because you look like you could be a greyhound.
A whippet.
Exactly. Did they cast you? How did they cast you for these things?
Well, you go on auditions just like regular actors do. You know, when you're shown pictures of these characters as they've drawn them, and you kind of come up with an idea of what you think this might sound like, and they'll have ideas, and you kind of just, you know, come together.
So you're so busy doing TV.
So busy.
Aren't you?
I am indeed.
Yes.
That's why I thank you for having me back when I had a session run long and have me on today.
But you're very, very busy. How did you have time to write a show?
Exactly. What was I thinking?
I don't know. Why?
Well, it's been about 4 years.
Oh, it has.
In the writing. You know, where you start writing and you go, what the hell was I thinking? And you shove it back in the drawer and, you know.
But you know, the title is like, Stop Me If I've Told You This. What actor could ever be stopped? They just talk and talk and talk, right?
Well, it's
what kind of a
the title
funny
comes from that I can never remember. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, let alone if we've already had this conversation.
Right, or what you said, right?
Yeah.
So actors love to tell stories.
You know, since I've been in the world of voiceovers for so long, I haven't been on the stage in like 30 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
I might as well, you know, be flying a rocket ship to the moon for how
So you're at the
familiar.
Odyssey.
I'm at the Odyssey.
Which is a great theater, lovely location.
Yeah.
And you have a director because you can't direct yourself. Can you?
I hope not. Mark Taylor, who's also a voiceover guy and on-camera actor, who I have known for about 30 years.
So how did you just asked him to direct you?
No, there's an animation director. Her name is Ginny McSwain, who I met doing My Little Pony. And he and she are very good. They did try to do the spin-off called Big Brother Ponies. And I don't mean X-rated. I literally kid stuff. And anyway, Ginny, I had a house reading, and Ginny brought Mark to my house, and he went, would love to do this.
Oh, that was perfect.
And I was raised Mormon, and so there's all this cray-cray. No, but I'm just saying, you know, within the show, you know, I went on a mission for the Mormon Church.
Oh, you did do all that? The King sisters were Mormons?
Indeed.
That's very interesting because who would ever know?
Right.
They never talked about it, did they, at that time, very much?
Well, it certainly wasn't a secret, and if any, I mean...
No, I didn't mean secret, but they really didn't bring it out.
No, and in fact, some of the... Bob Mackey, we were his first...
oh, did he do the costumes?
We were his first series. And so you see some of his first costume work in the clips in the show. And so my moms, they had these voluptuous figures. And there was like some comments, you know, from Mormons writing in about the cleavage. They're showing too much cleavage. You know.
That was Bob Mackey before Cher.
Yeah, before Cher. Yeah,
showing too much of everything. So what did Mark do? Did he take over the lighting? Did he tell you what to do?
I have
or
assembled the most amazing crew. You know, because the show is multimedia and with old clips and music, and I sing in it and stuff.
Oh, you do
so
too?
It's quite a production, but Mark was able to wrangle all this stuff and, you know, just, you know, rein me in and
what about
let
costuming?
Me go. Oh, I just wear one outfit that I put together myself.
And then do you move? Does he have you moving? Does he change the lights?
Oh, yeah, major light programming, and there's a multi-level stage, and I do a little dancing, a little singing, a little bit of everything.
Do you do your characters, your voiceovers? Yes. Did we miss any voiceovers?
Let's see, who else is in the show? Simba, Flounder from Little Mermaid.
Oh, I haven't heard that. Oh, you did do Little Mermaid.
Yes.
And what does she sound like, or he sound like?
Well, Flounder talks like this. He's kind of adenoidal, and he's, kind of just right up in here.
How do you know how to do these characters? Did they direct you and tell you what they should be in your voiceover?
Well, I guess as a kid, I didn't have a lot of friends, so I invented friends, right? I had a tape recorder. My parents gave me a tape recorder for Christmas one time, reel to reel, back in the day.
Yeah.
And I would interview myself.
Were you an only child?
Well, psychologists say that if your closest sibling is 10 years older, you are indeed an only child. I have two brothers that are 10 and 15 years older, so they were out of the house.
You were raised alone, basically.
Yeah, except for the thousands of cousins that were always at the house rehearsing,
I know, but there you are, interviewing yourself instead of the thousands of cousins.
Who knew? Well, trust me, I drove them crazy too, with chasing my mother around the house trying to, interview her.
Did you take acting classes?
No.
Did you take singing lessons?
No.
But you had the voice from your mother.
Yes.
And you had the acting from your
my
father. What was his name?
His name was Robert Clarke.
Oh,
he was king of the B horror flick. If any of you are sci-fi fans that are out there watching, some of those iconic 50s goofy monster movies, The Man from Planet X,
really?
The Astounding She-Monster, Hideous Sun Demon, and I have clips of those.
It's all in the show.
Well.
How long is this show?
It's 90 minutes.
Oh, it's only 90
minutes. The
and
magical 90 minutes.
You're obviously on stage every minute.
Oh, yeah.
And what days are you on?
We are Saturday nights and Sunday matinees at 2 at the Odyssey.
At the Odyssey.
West side of the city, over there near West L.A. off
Sepulveda.
Sepulveda and Santa Monica and the 405.
Well, we're so happy, Cam, that you finally came.
Well, I am so glad to finally get to be here.
Yay!
Yay!
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Michael Dee. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping at the Hollywood Museum, and I'm with artist Michael Dee, a Midwesterner who has an MFA and BA from Kent State University in Ohio. His work has been shown in galleries and museums across the United States, and he's represented by the Garbushian Gallery in Beverly Hills. When did you decide to be an artist, Michael?
Probably very early, because several of my uncles were printmakers, and my grandfather was a wood carver.
Oh, did you carve wood?
A little bit.
Did you? Yeah. Did he use a big knife, small knife?
Well, I was a little kid, so probably smaller knives, if I remember.
Did you study art at Kent State?
I went to school for aerospace technology initially.
Aerospace technology,
right.
Is that what this piece is? Aerospace?
Kind of. I took a,
and then you turned into an artist?
No, I took a sculpture workshop, and I really enjoyed it, and I was familiar with a lot of the tools from, my father's an aircraft inspector, so I knew how to do the metal forming and the sheet metal work. And from working with my grandfather, I knew how to do wood carving. It just seemed more natural. I enjoyed art more.
But did you finish in that?
I took flying lessons, and I had a lot of flight theory classes, but I just was, it came time to commit to that or to do something else, and I decided to do something else.
Can we fly with you now?
I'm not current on if you need me to fly you, I guess I could, but we get in trouble.
Okay, we won't do that. Your work is really informed by, I guess, aerospace, since we talked about that, and music, and pop culture.
Right.
How does that all work? Let's talk about, we talked about the aerospace part of it, right?
Yes.
Or did we cover enough of that?
I think so. It's I was interested in sound for the previous show.
I see. So with music, what kind of music do you?
Well, right now I'm playing in a performance art band, so it's not the most musical thing, I would say. It's probably not like some of your guests who play a classical piano or the harp or the violin. It's probably way different than that.
What is it? What kind of music is it then?
It's called doom or stoner metal.
Really?
Like
Stoner metal?
informed by psychedelic music and like Black Sabbath.
We have this here too.
Right.
Psychedelic. This piece really fits into everything
true.
we've talked about. So I guess all those influences have come in, and the pop culture part of it comes into this. What do you use to make these?
These are actually cups from Party City. That's why I like them, because they're 32 different colors and they're just so easily available. Like anyone could go and say, "Oh, I remember that red from the art show," and then they could have a party and they could drink out of the cups.
And then they remember your red piece, and then they can go to Party City and see. What is this piece?
This is one of the star sculptures, and then the ones that are actually multicolored I call the party monster sculptures.
And are they all in this shape? Do they all take this form?
Well, some are symmetrical, some look like little mounds or mushroom clouds or mountains, and then some are very large, look kind of like a gigantic sea anemone.
Like how large? This is what, 2 feet?
There are some that are about 7 feet tall, about 4 or 5 feet wide.
And how do you put these together?
I fuse them with a Milwaukee heat gun that I buy at Home Depot.
And what does that look like?
It looks like a hair dryer.
Oh, it does.
But you can't dry your hair with it because you'll melt your hair.
What happens? It's so hot?
It kind of they get kind of soft, and
These get soft.
they become very sticky, and then you can stack them.
So you do this, and then you put it down, and then you start making a sculpture, or at the same time?
I'll make like a honeycomb center core, and then I'll progressively add cups to it end to end to make the tentacles.
And do you draw it first? Do you have a drawing of what you're going to do?
I have a database of sea creatures and animations of octopuses and things and cactuses. I look at those, but it's a little more intuitive. So
it's more intuitive, so you don't have to draw a picture of it. You'll just look at a cactus, or you'll look at...
I'll look at a sea anemone or something.
It's fantastic.
or a jellyfish.
Yeah, and do the colors then affect what you're doing?
The colors, sometimes, like, if I know it's going to be in an area that's blue, I'll do the safety orange cups. Or if I know it's going to be in someone's garden area, I'll do the day glow pink cups. I try to keep it complementary. So they glow more.
So we talked about this kind of music, aggressive music, right?
Right.
Is it aggressive? And it's kind of surreal, I guess?
Well, if you're playing like 20 years ago, this was when I was in Kent, Ohio, and Akron, Ohio. If you're playing with these amplifiers that were designed to be used by the Rolling Stones in stadiums inside people's houses, it's like insanely loud,
right?
Distorted. The whole house is shaking. Like you can feel it in your nose and in your teeth.
Is that what you use?
Not as much anymore. Like we still play very, very, very loud, but it's not to the point that people are like having anxiety attacks and stuff. Like we're not as out of control as we were before.
But you still play?
Yes, I play in a band called Hell-O.
Hello.
Hello.
It's so sweet.
Right.
It has a very sweet connotation. What about drawing? Do you still continue to draw?
I am producing some new drawings right now that are they're going with an event I'm having next year. I get resin skulls that I order on eBay, and then I have a photocopier, and I move the skull while it's being photocopied, so they're very distorted, kind of like Salvador Dali.
So very surrealistic.
Right.
Kind of that feeling. But you're not drawing those. You're using found objects to work with.
The skulls are being manipulated through photography.
Uh-huh.
Then I'm drawing them and I'm making them more three-dimensional because of the way I'm handling the shadows and the direct light.
But do you draw? Are you actually drawing on a piece of paper?
Yes, yeah.
You are actually drawing. So what other materials do you use? We've talked about the gun. We've talked about these cups. We've talked about what? Canvas?
Neon lights from time to time.
Oh, you do? What do you do with those?
They're these three-dimensional hearts. They're fairly small. They're about this big. They look like children's drawings that have been rendered three-dimensional. And then there are these small flowers, too.
What, how do you title these things? Because you really have some weird names, don't you?
It just depends. If the situation is more conservative, I'll just call it, star, silver, medium size. But if it's not a conservative situation, I like to have more fun with the titles.
Like Some Candy Talk, what is that?
Some Candy Talking and The Sound of Speed.
Yeah, that was a show actually you did at Garbushin.
There was, I've always responded to there being a dichotomy. And that was, I got that from this artist who was inspired by architecture, Glenn Cedar.
I don't know him.
He's a New York artist, and he said you always have to invert the space. And I always thought, well, if one thing is going one way, then do the opposite, or put the opposite beside it, so it's going to seem more pretty or more dark or more
make
noisy.
It look better. Or,
right.
I see.
So he would recreate gallery spaces as cash check stores.
Oh, he did. Oh, so was that his art?
Right. There was a Gagosian. Or he would recreate the entryway to a library, but actually turn it into a minimal sculpture in the entryway.
Right, I remember.
So he would say invert the space, and I don't work with architecture, so I try to invert things
with your art.
Right, using music and using psychology rather than architecture.
You did have a show at Gagosian at one time, right?
I did an installation there.
Oh, you did. What was it composed of?
I had I was really inspired by the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, and they had the rain machine. And I loved, I don't know if I could say this, I liked the dichotomy of the plumbing from the rain machine and the piss paintings.
Oh, and Andy's piss paintings.
Right.
Oh,
so
very interesting. But the rain machine didn't do anything to the paint the way the piss paintings did, right?
But I had... the sound of the rain machine was very interesting. So I played that in the restroom at Gagosian. So you would hear Andy's sculpture while you were pissing, and then you would think about his paintings. It's kind of a more conceptual installation.
Very conceptual. And then what happens in the big gallery?
In the big gallery, it was funny. The next show, they had the rain machine. So it kind of, and then the show after that, they had the piss painting. So it was this constantly thinking about Andy while you were using the restroom and hearing my installation.
That's very interesting. I know you teach school.
Yes.
You're teaching a class in art. What, do you teach all these concepts that we've talked about? Or are they too far out?
Well, I'm doing design and art history, so a lot of times I will be talking about metaphor. I'll be like, can we put a dog in here? Can we put a bull in here? Like, can we put a pumpkin here? What can we do to drive this home to make people understand?
And also to look, right? Is it like a scare tactic in a way?
Yeah, because I was like, well, the tree looks okay now, but what if it was all twisted up and had a mouth on it? Or what if all the leaves fell off? Like, just push it further.
And are they learning?
A lot of them will go into animation, or they're interested in doing storyboards. So they do kind of pick up on like.
But you're making them think, right?
Right.
And that's the main thing. And I think that's what came out. I mean, from the aerospace and your family and your wood carving, it's all come to this point. Right, Michael?
Well, when I work, I don't like experiment with materials and then kind of something happens. Like I usually have a notebook and I'll be like reading. So my work is more research based. So it probably
comes from the background.
The visual is just as important, but that usually is part of the process rather than just a manipulation of materials and acting and reacting to that.
Well, I think I learned a little bit more. I love these pieces.
Oh,
They're great, the stars, and thank you so much for being with us. And thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.